If you're using Illustrator, we're going to go ahead and create a rectangle and a ellipse or circle if we hold shift. For both of these shapes, we're going to be adding a gradient mesh in order to add more shading and make them look three-dimensional. For this round, we're just going to be fairly experimental, and I'll post a video later that explains how we would maybe going about really getting it in depth. The first thing, as you're putting the gradient mesh on, because we want to manipulate the shape after the fact to turn it into something else, we don't want to add too much gradient mesh initially. We want to keep it fairly low in terms of numbers of gradient mesh because you're going to have to move each of those points around, so you don't want to set yourself up for failure, okay? So really, I could, let's say, add 2 for the time being. Before I even do anything else, I'm going to start changing this shape into what I want it to be. So I'm going to the white direct selection tool, and I'm going to click on the shape, the anchors that I want to manipulate. And notice I also have to take the gradient mesh shapes if I want to manipulate those. So once I've kind of engaged this gradient mesh and it's part of it, then I'm kind of going to adjust this shape. And I'm sort of going for a leaf type thing. As always, I can still move the handles to change the angle of my curve, or make it curved at all, because I came from a rectangle, so hard edges. All right, so I'm pretty happy with this shape at the moment. So now I'm going to go ahead and start adding a few more gradient mesh lines, as well as start manipulating the colors on my gradient mesh. So I'm gonna add one more across the middle. Okay, so I'm gonna say I'm happy with this for the moment. So I've got about 5 on each side. And I'm going to add on the one side, I'm gonna click on one anchor, hold shift, and grab another anchor. And I'm going to continue doing this for, let's see, I've got like 4 anchors chosen, maybe 5. Then I'm going to change my color. So I'm going to stay within the same color family, so this block right here, and I'm going to make it a little lighter. And I might go a little bit lighter on my example just so that you can see what's happening. You don't necessarily have to go that aggressive on the one that you do. I'm also going to take this color and drag it to my swatches panel so I can have it to reuse as I go through this process. So I'm starting to see that the gradient over on the side, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more to that. So I'm going to click a few more anchor points, holding shift to grab more than one at a time. And I'm going to use that color again. So I've got kind of an interesting thing going on. I don't know if I like it quite yet, but right now we're just kind of playing. So I can click on each of these anchor points even within the mesh and start to adjust how my gradient is coming together. And just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and leave that as is. What I might do is also grab some of the anchor points outside of where I put the really light color and go in and put a slightly less light color. So it's kind of in between the two colors to help ease that gradient. Similarly, down on the other side, I'm going to, again, grabbing a few at a time by holding shift. I don't know if I grabbed that one or not. Do a darker version of the color. And so you can kind of see how it's coming together in terms of it's not just a straight linear change in color, right? I can affect where it is and then adjust it accordingly. Similarly, I'm going to mess with this circle. Right now it's flat, but if I go in, and I'm not actually going to adjust this circle at all, but I am going to add my mesh points. So I'm going to go ahead and add these in. And of course, as I clicked it, I had this dark blue that was already selected. So if you were kind of paying attention, it automatically came in with a darker blue. Which is fine because that actually was what I was going to do anyway, is have that be a darker color. But then I will also come in on the other side and make it the lighter color. And that might be a little too much, right? So I may want to add another mesh point, and that kind of backs it off a little bit. Okay, so like I said, play around with it, see how it goes. The goal, right, is to have a bright side coming in, a dark side coming in on the other side, and then manipulating it to get it to be as realistic as possible. But right now, just experimenting.